Welcome to our deep dive. And wow, did you pick a timely topic? AI in recruiting. It feels like everyone's talking about it, but what's real and what's hype?
Right. That's where this guide comes in handy. AI in Recruiting, Separating Hype from Reality, and the author, Alex Luizos. Talk about an interesting background.
Medical doctor turned AI engineer, not your typical tech guru.
Exactly. And you can tell his medical background really informs his view on AI. That human element is all over the guide, especially when he talks about responsible AI development.
Definitely. Okay, so big questions here. Is AI going to fully take over recruiting?
Well, that's one of the big questions we're exploring, right?
For sure. What are the actual benefits and challenges for recruiters, for candidates, everyone?
Yeah, tons to unpack there. And maybe a good starting point is those large language models. LLMs, right? Everyone's throwing that term around.
It's like the buzziest thing in AI right now. And one of the things that really stuck with me from the guide is how persuasive LLMs can be, but often lack actual understanding. Okay, so they can sound really smart, but are they actually smart?
It's like Alex says in the guide, they're super smart parrots.
Mimicking, but not truly getting it.
Exactly. And there's this thing the guy talks about, hallucinations, where LLMs present wrong information with total confidence.
Oh, wow. So they can be very convincing even when they're wrong.
Which is why it's so important to, be aware of their limitations. We can't just blindly rely on them.
That makes sense. So back to that whole robots taking over thing. Will AI fully automate recruiting? Are we all about to be out of a job?
Well, Alex addresses that directly, and honestly, the surveys he includes, they paint a pretty mixed picture. We're not there yet, is the takeaway.
Okay, so it's not a universal takeover, at least not yet.
Yeah, some companies are diving all in, but a lot are still figuring things out.
So where are companies actually using AI right now? Any interesting examples in the guide?
Tons. The MasterCard one was really cool. They're using AI to create personalized messages to potential candidates.
So instead of a mass email blast, it's more targeted.
Way more targeted.
Yeah.
Based on skills, experience, all that. Makes those first interactions more meaningful for the candidate and the recruiter.
Smart. What else?
Electrolux. They're using AI to analyze video interviews.
Really? What are they looking for?
Things like, tone of voice, body language, trying to get a sense of cultural fit.
Wow, so it's going beyond just skills on a resume.
Definitely. Which kind of leads to a big question. How do candidates feel about all this, about being assessed by algorithms?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
What does the guide say about that, the candidate perspective?
Well, Alex has a bunch of quotes from candidates, and it's really mixed. Some are excited, more efficient, more personalized process.
Yeah, it makes sense.
But others are worried about bias, lack of human interaction. And he cites this study from the Pew Research Center. A lot of candidates don't even realize how much AI is being used already.
Oh, wow. So there's a transparency issue there, too.
Big time. And that's where the AI arms race comes into play.
Wait, an AI arms race? What's that?
So companies are using AI to assess candidates, right? But now candidates are using AI to optimize their applications.
So tailoring their resumes to beat the algorithm.
Exactly. Which, raises some ethical questions.
Yeah.
Not everyone has access to those tools, so it could create this new kind of digital divide.
Oh, I see. So even access to opportunity could be affected. Interesting point. I want to hear more about this vision Alex talks about, the intelligent cloud for recruiting.
Yeah, that's where it gets really interesting, I think. It's imagine a system where AI is kind of doing the heavy lifting, connecting the right people with the right jobs, making the process smoother for everyone.
Okay, I'm starting to get the picture. But it's not replacing humans completely.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Humans would still be at the center of it all, building those relationships, assessing cultural fit, the stuff AI can't do.
So more like AI as a tool to help recruiters be even better at what they do.
Exactly. But, and this is a big but, we got to be super careful about the ethical stuff.
Right. That's the other side of the coin. What does the guide say about that?
Well, Alex spends a good chunk of the guide on this, and for good reason. He brings up that Amazon case, which is a total wake-up call.
Oh, yeah, the one where their algorithm ended up discriminating against women?
Yeah, that one. They trained it on their existing employee data, which was mostly men, and the algorithm just absorbed that bias.
Wow. So even if it's unintentional, the bias can still be baked right in.
Exactly. So we have to be super careful about how these systems are designed and trained.
Okay, so how do we make sure they're fair? What's the solution?
Well, transparency is huge. Alex talks about algorithmic transparency, which basically means being able to explain how these systems work.
So no more black boxes. We need to understand the logic behind the decisions.
Exactly. And you need diverse data sets. Rigorous testing is an ongoing thing, making sure everything's working fairly.
Okay, that makes sense. Anything on the, legal side, regulations, guidelines, that kind of thing.
Yeah, actually. There's the GDPR in the EU, the General Data Protection Regulation. That has a right to explanation built in for AI decisions.
So companies have to be able to explain how the AI made its choice.
Yep. And here in the U.S., New York City has this law about bias audits for AI tools used in recruiting.
So they have to, regularly check their algorithms.
Exactly. Make sure they're not discriminating against protected groups.
That seems like a good step.
It is. And the EEOC, the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, they've got some good guidelines too.
Okay, so it sounds like there's growing awareness of these issues.
Definitely. And it's not just about avoiding the bad stuff. AI can actually be used to promote DEI.
Really? How so?
Well, for one, it can help make sure job descriptions use inclusive language. Language that doesn't discourage certain groups from applying.
Oh, that's a good point. If the language is already biased, you're going to get fewer applications from certain people.
Right. And AI can help companies find qualified candidates from underrepresented groups who might have been overlooked before. It can even analyze hiring patterns, look for potential bias there.
So it's not just about fixing the AI itself, but using it to fix existing problems.
Exactly. AI can be this powerful force for positive change.
Mm.
But we have to use it carefully, intentionally.
Okay, so let's get practical. What are some concrete ways AI can be used in recruiting? Ethically, I mean.
Well, Alex has a bunch of recommendations in the guide. The first one is balance. It's not about replacing humans completely. It's finding the right mix of human and AI.
So AI handles some tasks, recruiters handle others.
Yeah, like AI could personalize those initial outreach emails, make them more engaging. But then once a candidate is interested, a human recruiter takes over, builds that relationship.
That makes sense. What else?
Oh, providing feedback to candidates. Imagine, instead of a generic rejection, you get personalized feedback from the AI. Tells you why you weren't chosen, how you can improve.
Oh, that would be so much better instead of just leaving candidates in the dark.
Exactly. And AI chatbots can answer questions during the application process, take some of the load off recruiters.
It's like I'm actually getting kind of excited about AI in recruiting now.
It can be really cool.
Yeah.
But it's all about using it to enhance the experience, not diminish it.
What about data privacy? That's a big concern with AI.
Definitely. Alex talks about that a lot. Companies have to be transparent about how they're using candidate data and keep it secure.
So responsible use as well as ethical use.
Big time. And communication is key. Companies have to talk to regulators, DEI groups, the public. Be open about what they're doing.
That makes sense. Build trust, avoid those big backlashes we've seen with some companies.
Exactly. The main takeaway here is the future of recruiting isn't humans versus AI. It's humans and AI.
Working together. I like that. But how do we actually make that happen?
Well, it takes a lot of different things. We need ethical AI development, clear guidelines, and open communication. Everyone's got to be involved.
So it's a shared responsibility.
Absolutely. We all have a role to play in making sure AI is used for good. The guide talks a lot about research, development, education. Those things are crucial.
Sounds like we're just at the beginning of this journey.
We are. But it's an exciting one, full of potential.
Okay, so we've talked about the recruiter side, the candidate side, but what about the bigger picture, the overall job market? Could AI make it more equitable, or will it just make things worse?
That's the million-dollar question. And Alex really grapples with that in the guide. It's a complex issue. On the one hand, AI could level the playing field, remove some of those human biases.
So algorithms could actually be more objective.
Potentially, yes.
Huh.
But the thing is, algorithms are only as good as the data they're trained on.
Right. Garbage in, garbage out.
Exactly. So if the data is biased, the AI will be biased too.
So it's not a perfect solution.
Nope. We have to be really intentional about designing AI systems that are fair. And we have to keep checking them, making sure they're still working the way they should.
So it's an ongoing process, not a one-time fix.
Exactly. And it's not just about the tech, it's about how we use it. AI can help us identify those systemic barriers in the job market, those things that are holding people back.
So like analyzing hiring patterns to see where the biases are?
Yeah, and then making recommendations for how to fix them, like making sure job descriptions are using inclusive language, or helping companies find qualified candidates from underrepresented groups.
Wow, that's actually really cool. It sounds like AI could be a huge help with DEI initiatives.
It really could.
Yeah.
But we have to remember it's a tool. And like any tool, it can be used for good or bad. It's up to us to make sure it's used for good.
I like that. We're the ones in control. Okay, this has been an amazing deep dive. I feel like I've learned so much about AI in recruiting. It really feels like we're at this turning point. So much potential, but also a lot of risks. For our listener out there, if they want to make sure AI is used ethically in recruiting, where do they start?
I think that's where Alex's advice about staying informed and engaged comes in.
Okay, so more than just reading headlines, right?
Yeah, for sure. There are so many great resources, organizations, publications, online communities, all focused on responsible AI.
So not just watching from the sidelines, but actually getting involved.
Exactly. Ask questions, speak up if you see something that seems off, demand transparency from companies using AI. It's on all of us to make sure this tech is used for good.
That's kind of empowering, actually. We're not just powerless bystanders here.
Exactly. And remember, this is just the beginning. The future of work is going to keep changing. New tech will come along that we can't even imagine right now.
So being able to adapt is going to be even more important.
It's hugely important.
Right.
It's not just about learning new skills. It's about being open to new ways of thinking.
Right. So you got to stay flexible.
Absolutely. That ability to learn, adapt, collaborate, those are the skills that are going to be most valuable.
Great point. Okay, so as we wrap up, what are the top 3 things our listeners should remember about AI in recruiting?
Okay, top 3. Number 1, AI is here to stay. It's already changing things, and it's only going to have a bigger impact in the future.
No escaping it.
Nope. Number 2, we've got to be super aware of potential bias and push for transparency, fairness, all of that. Make sure AI is being used the right way.
So keep our eyes open.
Definitely. And number 3, this isn't about humans versus machines. It's about finding ways for humans and AI to work together.
That's the ideal scenario, right?
You think so?
This has been an amazing deep dive. Honestly, I feel like I have a much better understanding of all the nuances of AI in recruiting now.
It's a complex topic for sure. But it's exciting too. There's so much potential.
It really is. And I think the biggest takeaway for me is that we all have a role to play in shaping how this plays out.
100%. Stay curious, keep asking questions, and make sure you're part of the conversation.
Couldn't have said it better myself. To our listener, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We hope it's given you some food for thought. And remember, the future of work is being written right now. Let's make sure it's a future that works for everyone.